Mr. Paul is not yet here, so maybe we can wait for 1 or 2 minutes. Maybe I will present, just make the general presentation to start with, waiting for the last participant to connect. Very happy to be more or less with all of you. Hi, yeah, Mr. Paul Thomas is here. Great. So we are testing with the support of the European Microfinance Platform, a new version of the European Microfinance Week, virtual version. So we hope everybody is fine wherever you are and whatever the situation can be in your countries. We are all in the same boat. Happy to take time also with you to exchange also on what we love to do and what we want to support in the next steps. So today we are working with the European Microfinance Platform Investor Action Group and with the CERISE working group LabODD SDG Lab together, and also with the support of the Social Performance Task Force and its Social Investor Working Group to discuss outcome measurement. So we are among the first session of the European Microfinance Week, not on the formal agenda, but really as a working group. So we will try and discuss as much as possible in spite of the distance. And but we are thankful to e-MFP for this very nice setting and opportunity to exchange in spite of the current situation. So just in few words as an introduction. Okay, so now I cannot move my slides as sometime. Okay, just to put in the framework. So this working group of European Microfinance Platform and the LabODD SDG Lab are working together to make the SDG a roadmap for impact. The idea is to really measure the contribution of microfinance institution, financial service provider, social business and investor to the SDG. This is a project that we have just launched with CERISE and with the support of the French Agency for Development and other co-financing partners. And the idea is really to strengthen outcome measurement at the beneficiary level in line with the SDG to guide financial service providers, social businesses, and investors to make good decisions and have a better impact. So we will be working with French and international NGOs, TA providers, investors, and their partners in Africa and Southeast Asia in most of the cases, focusing on microfinance, social enterprises in agri-business and energy, and with their social investors. We have few focus countries, but we can also work in other countries. And this will be a project and a working group for 3 years. So we are joining forces also with the e-MFP Investor Action Group, as we were discussing for 2 years now, not 2 years, but 1 year and a half, on how to measure outcome. And we have already had some meetings, and Mr. Paul Thomas from ESAF was also sharing 3 years ago with us how they worked on the SDG and how it helped them. We have been discussing last year with Symbiotics on how they collect information, and this year they will present on the session tomorrow at 3 p.m., for example, how they use direct information from SMEs. So it's work in progress. We see a real demand from the sector in better collecting client outcome data, better analyzing them, improving quality. So today, we will share some practices, share the state of practices and with very concrete cases. The idea for these first steps of the SDG Lab, LabODD, is to identify key challenges to start with. In particular, today we will discuss the issues around data quality, and analysis of data, how we can improve the capacities of the financial service provider and social enterprises to better analyze, better collect, and better analyze their data. So we will have concrete examples. First of all, I'm very happy to welcome Callum Scott from Opportunity International, who will discuss the business case and why they are using and working with their partners on outcome measurement and what are the challenges. Then we will have Mr. Paul Thomas from ESAF India sharing advancement on their work on SDG. Of course, we know ESAF. It's a huge and great committed organization. They are doing plenty of work on social performance management and outcome measurement. Today, we will just focus on the SDG work, but for those of you who are interested, we can share also a wider set of slides and examples that have been shared with us by ESAF. We will have Marilou and Kavin from Oikocredit sharing their very concrete experience also with their customer outcome program and how they have worked on data quality and capacity of analysis by their investees. And if we have time, I can also share a little bit some field example on quality of data and the work in progress by the Social Performance Task Force on outcome measurements and using existing transactional data to better guide decision making at the financial service provider level. So very happy to be with all of you. We have the chat box to discuss. You can, if you want to present yourself a little bit more in the chat box when you have just put your name or surname in your participation list. Please do not hesitate. We are about 35 people, so maybe it's a little bit complex to do a round table or to present each and every one, but do not hesitate to put your name, your organization, and what you value in outcome measurement in the chat box. And yeah, let's I always have a little bit of technical issues with changing the slides, but it will work. I should find the sorry. Okay. So let's start by you, Callum. Yeah, we are very happy to have Opportunity International with us and ESAF as one of your close partners also sharing your experience. Callum, if you want, I will try my best to pass the slides. Let me know when you want me to change and hopefully it will work. And if you want to present yourself briefly and your organization. And people as participants, we ask to have a very brief presentation, 10, 12 minutes. So do not hesitate to put questions on the chat box and we will have formal or more open discussion after the presentations. Callum?
That's great. Thanks, Cecile. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Excellent. Yeah, so very happy to be here. Happy to share a little bit about Opportunity International's approach to outcomes measurement. Yeah, so just in my background, I've been with Opportunity and working in microfinance for around 12 years now. And throughout that time, I've been working in social performance management, promoting best practices with our partners. And particularly in recent years, focusing on strengthening the capacity of Opportunity as a network and our partners in collecting client level data and understanding who we're reaching and the outcomes that we are delivering for the clients. And then more recently, I should also mention taking an interest in climate change and financial inclusion and whether there's more we can do with our partners, including ESAF, who are also big in this space around building climate resilience for our clients. Yeah, so just first of all, our approach to outcomes measurement, we're a mission-based NGO network. We're driven by social goals. And the reasons we're committed to outcomes measurement, firstly, it's about performance management, so understanding what works, acting on the feedback from the data we're collecting, and trying to improve outcomes through that data. That really is the first and primary goal. But as well as that, we are collecting and reporting data to be accountable to our funders, to our donors, investors in opportunity and our partners, and also to be accountable to our staff and clients. So we're a network of 40 microfinance partners. Across those partners, there are 6.5 million loan clients, 12 million savings clients. We've been focusing on growing more niche financial products as a network, so edu-finance and agriculture finance products, along with building training and building education quality. And the last 5 years, we've also had an increased focus on non-financial programs, so also building in health education, education of different types, and women's empowerment services. And that evolution in what we do is kind of recognizing, as many people do in the sector these days, that financial services are typically not enough on their own to lift people out of poverty. And it's a combination of services for clients that will be most effective. So what does our approach to outcomes measurement look like? First of all, what we're not trying to do, we're not trying to prove impact. So we do want to measure the outcomes for our clients, but we don't survey control groups. We think there's a place for that type of research, but it's too time consuming, it's too expensive for our purposes. And we would say, I mean, we believe it's not a practical methodology for ongoing outcomes measurement. So rather than that, we focus on regular short surveys of clients. We look for large sample sizes so that we can disaggregate the data. That's more practical in terms of understanding where things are working well and where things are working less well. And it's a more cost-effective approach. So our indicator set includes income questions. We use the PPI, the Poverty Probability Index, for establishing the income level of groups of clients. We have indicators on household assets, access to health, education, water and sanitation, indicators on the state of the business and empowerment, especially women in the household, because that's a main area of focus for most of our partners. And then just as I said at the start, we also work with our partners to promote best practices. So we spend time promoting other monitoring tools, client satisfaction surveys, client complaints, client exit analysis, and we promote the client protection principles and the universal standards for SPM. So if we can move to the next slide, Cecile. I might start talking to it just for time, and I'm sure we'll get onto it. But yeah, in terms of progress we've made, our leading partners, so our best partners, if you like, in terms of this, that's great, are now managing what we would call an end-to-end process. So from data collection through analysis, data management, and reporting. And you'll hear from ESAF in a moment or two. But I also have to confess that many of our partners do not have that capacity, so they're not able to do that. They can't collect client level data in a robust or on an ongoing basis, or they don't have the capacity to analyze and report the data. I mean, arguably that's because they're not sufficiently bought in to the benefits of outcomes measurement. Typically, there are multiple challenges for growing MFIs. That's our experience from 40 years in the sector. And outcomes measurements and generally client data collection often gets pushed down the agenda. We can now add a pandemic to the list of urgent issues that MFIs need to address, which doesn't make things easier. But we have to keep pushing this agenda. I believe, just on the pandemic, that doesn't make outcomes data less important. If anything, I think it's more important to understand what your clients' needs are, how your products are helping them. So, while we still struggle with client level data reporting, I would also note that we've made major progress in building a culture around social performance reporting at an institutional level. So 95% of our partners complete the SPI4 reporting template quarterly and submit those reports to Opportunity and to CERISE, which we see as real progress. So why is outcomes measurement a challenge? Barriers include costs, so survey costs, the management time and resources needed. Data quality issues are many, especially if you survey in-house rather than relying on third-party surveyors. And I don't have time to go into the list of data quality issues, but there are many challenges around data quality. And then capacity to manage data, challenges there can be technical or again, cost related. And then the last one, this might sound a bit mysterious. What I'm talking about here is the gap between what our survey results often show and the expectations of various stakeholders. So, results differ, but I think you can characterize most of our partners' survey results as showing that a group of clients, perhaps a third of clients, see a significant increase in income and move out of poverty. Probably a larger group sees some increase in income, but perhaps aren't moving out of poverty. And usually a smaller group sees no increase or a negative impact. And that can be quite disappointing if you want to show that your institution is helping every client, or your investment is moving everyone out of poverty. But these days, we know that poverty is complex and persistent. I'd say it's not a bad result in my book if you're showing that you have these groups of clients, and many of them are moving out of poverty, but certainly not all of them. But these results can be off-putting to financial institutions and also to some investors and donors. So that's a challenge as well. Where next? What we're focusing on going forward, what we think the sector should focus on, and certainly improving data quality. And I think here efforts by CERISE, SPTF, the Outcomes Working Group, also by the Global Impact Investing Network, the GIN and IRIS, to standardize indicators and definitions is really helpful, both for investors in terms of comparing results, and also for institutions that are looking to start collecting data and design data collection. And then training is important, of course. We've learned that through the work with our partners, but also learning by doing. So I think it's been said before on one of these forums that it's worth just making a start in some ways. Remain committed, refine your approach as you go. You will hit obstacles, but learning by doing is definitely part of outcomes measurement. And buy-in from FSPs is important. I won't say much more about that because I'm running out of time. I'm sure Paul will talk a lot about why ESAF are committed to outcomes measurement. But from my point of view, you have to be able to demonstrate why it's valuable on an ongoing basis for the operations of the institution. It needs to be helpful to the local management. And then I think the last thing I'd say is it's also important that in this group, other similar groups, we're having an evolving discussion about the complexity of poverty, the fact that financial inclusion plays an important role, but a necessarily limited role in lifting people out of poverty. So again, expectations management. And I really liked, just a plug for the CGAP new impact narrative for financial inclusion that came out at the end of last year. I think I really liked how that focused on resilience and opportunity as the real outcomes from financial inclusion. So I'd really recommend reading the CGAP literature around that as well.
Thank you very much, Callum, for this very practical approach and clear on the challenges also, the needs also with this time of crisis to go a step further together. And I think the idea of designing evaluation that meet all stakeholder needs is a key point for the next steps because we see some demand and we see some advancement, but making sure that the information that is collected is useful for the different stakeholders will help also in making the case. Celia, if there are questions on the chat box, you can let us know. If not, I will give the floor to Mr. Paul Thomas for the moment, and we can have discussion also once we have the different presentation. So I will stop sharing my screen to give the opportunity also to ESAF to share its screen.
There's no question in the chat, but some comments. So we can follow with ESAF now.
Okay. And thank you for everybody to share who they are and what is their perspective on the subject. Mr. Paul Thomas, very happy to have you, and let's present us your work on the SDGs.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and to all the participants joined for this program from different parts of the world. Thank you, Cecil, for the opportunity, for the invitation to be back again in European Microfinance Platform. It's always a great joy to be in the European Microfinance Platform with the set of people who think on inclusion and sustainability. So I've been attending the European Microfinance Platform since 2012, but unfortunately we couldn't meet physically, but I hope soon we will be able to meet physically at least in next year. So, I'll share our experience in measuring SDG for our sustainable, responsible business, which we are doing. So, why the first next? The first thing is that we started ESAF started as a non-profit microfinance institution way back 25 years before. So then we had multiple transitions But the social mission on which we founded ESAF, even though we from a non-profit we moved to a for-profit regulated non-bank company. Then we had a third transformation as a regulated full-service commercial scheduled bank. But I'm very happy that we are able to stick on to the original social sustainable development mission on which ESAF was founded way back in 1992. So we started ESAF was transformed to a small finance bank, which is a regulated full service bank, but it is a differentiated bank. So when we started the bank in 2017, so we have been following we have been conducting social performance measurements using different tools from the year 2000 onwards. Then it is later we were become part of social performance management SPTF. We were using PPI tool, we were using SPI4. So different tools we were using. So then when we started the bank, we thought of aligning ourselves, our products with the sustainable development goals, which is which has got a global acceptance, and it is very easy to align SDG goals, align very well with the vision and mission of ESAF. So it was that's why we try to align with the SDGs. This is the next step of I would say social performance management, which we have been following. It's a higher level. It's a higher level and higher vision, and it really enhanced the practice of responsible banking. So, I think not many banks in India has a sustainable banking department, but ESAF Bank has a separate department called Sustainable Banking Department. So that again shows our commitment, and we have a triple bottom line agenda: people, planet, prosperity. So we are the first bank from India to join the global network of Global Alliance on Banking on Values, the GABV. So these are all, I am again reiterating why we decided to work on SDGs. It is because of the commitment, it is because of the mission of the organization which we have founded. And also we are committed to the ESG goals set by our bank, and it is easy to track. I mean, we decided ESG was a broad concepts and all, but so if you are following with SDGs, it is very specific. There are specific goals to track. So and it will be easy for our to report to our stakeholders. That is why another reason for us to choose to work on SDGs. So we also developed tools for integrating with our practices. So this is a reason for us to choose to work on SDGs. Next. So then once we decided to, then the second thing we did was linking our existing products and services with the SDG goals for any holistic sustainable approach. So we have almost all goals we have linked with our existing. Some of the products we innovated after we became a bank. I'll just give two examples. The goal and SDG goal number 1. So no poverty. So no poverty. So the access to finance is very enabling factor to achieve this SDG goal. So we have small loans, we have savings, we have insurance, we have pension, micro deposits. So different financial products which will enable the community to achieve these SDG goals. And so these specific actions we have initiated was zero balance accounts, micro recurring deposits, many loans for various livelihoods. Then for depositors, the depositing community, also to participate in the larger SDG achievement, we introduced a deposit product called Hridaya Deposit, so which we, along with the financial returns for those depositors, we also share the social returns with them. So that is a very innovations we did in after we introduced started the bank. Then we have a health insurance. So the MIS system data is linked to the this measurement tool. Also, we continue to use PPI, the Progress Out of Poverty Index. Then various product performance trend analysis we do, beneficiary case studies. So that is another. Almost we work with 3.5 million low-income families across 20 states in India, providing these services, and we are helping them to achieve this goal of no poverty. Another example is good health and well-being. Yes, access to health and awareness on and healthcare. So we, as part of our corporate social responsibility, we trained community health workers called Arogya Mitras. Health awareness camps were conducted. Group health insurance products were introduced. So then for senior citizens, senior people, aged people, we introduced a special deposit product, a special program called Vayo Jyoti, linked with specialized support and health insurance and all. So again, the tracking insurance claims. How do we measure insurance claims? Support from the barefoot counselors, Arogya Mitras, the number of people they reach out, their outcomes. So these are all, like this. We worked, we linked almost all the products and services with these with the SDG goals. So next. Then the use of social performance SPM metrics at ESAF. How do we use this? So the information of this SDG measurement is used to new product development. If some of the improvement of product and the new product developments, we use heavily the data we receive from the SDG studies. Then the SDG SPM data is reported on a quarterly basis, every quarterly board meeting, along with the financial reporting. We also report the SPM dashboard is reported to the board. And on a quarter-on-quarter basis, sustainable product performance analyzed and reported in appropriate decision on acceptance liability team evaluate the impact on along with the numbers on their target business numbers, whether the SDG goal achievement is also being considered. Then the customer need assessment survey findings and market scoping findings. So help the bank to come out with new customer-centric sustainable products. And all the people, the impact which the different products are being achieved on the SPM ground is being shared with the entire business community, entire departments, other departments. So they also are taken on board. They also a shared purpose is being built across the organization. So that was another use of SPM metrics. And when I see the advantage, as I said earlier, these other various products evolved after we further developed. This has really helped us to develop an customer-centric differentiated products. So Bala Jyoti is a product, is a saving and bank account which we have developed for children and specifically for the children from the low income families. So then we have Uthan loan for people affected with natural calamities. When we had a flood, immediately we were able to develop in the similar line. We after the pandemic has commenced, we also launched a loan product called COVID Care Loan. So these are all possible because then Krishak Bandhu specific debit card developed for farmers. So for children, we have a specific debit card. Then we have clean energy products for clean energy, loan products to buy clean energy products. Hridaya deposits are all developed after the intervention of the sustainable banking team, based on the data, based on the outcomes we received from the SDG linkages. And also it helps to attract social investors. I would say I'm not able to achieve much on that except opportunity international. We were not able to attract many social investors to this phase. I don't know, maybe the work of Cecil and all, CERISE and all may help to bring, and Callum is doing a lot of work on the Impact Investors Forum and all. Hope people will see. Otherwise, everybody say that, okay, this is good. Okay, you are doing SDG linkages, you are linking your products, you are achieving, you are having a lot of social impact. That is good. So that stops there. So apart from that, nothing is moving. Okay, so that's, but still we continue to do because we are committed to the cause of development and inclusion. So whether investors come or not, we will continue. Okay, so then the challenges faced was that the general perception about banking is stops with profits. So whether you take the market perception or the investor perception or a rating agency perception or a regulator perception, generally it ends with the what is the profit you make. Are you able to manage the risk? Are you able to? What is your capital adequacy? Are you well capitalized? In all this, what is the social impact you make? What is so? It is not generally asked. Such questions generally asked. So it is to convince. That's when we deal with the investor community, when we deal with markets. So that is a major challenge we face. What is the advantage of? So it may take some more time to prove that being a social focused, SDG focused business, a financial service business can make a difference. We believe that over a period of time we will be able to convince that. Then advantage acceptance among investors, I already shared. So there is large number of mainstream investors are not considering. It's only very a small set of investors, but their kitties are very small. A country like India, if you really wanted to reach out to large number of population which are not underserved so far, it needs huge capital. So we need to bring in mainstream capital to this segment. So I think as a sector together we all need to market the benefit of SDG linkages to the larger investor community. And also when we started a bank, we had to hire banking professionals from the market. So people who worked in commercial banks. So convincing them about the advantages of having relevant to address to the products aligned to SDG goals was a bit difficult, but over a period of time, because of sharing of the case studies and the impact with the team, so now they are also being convinced. So then these are all the challenges: convincing the rating agencies, convincing the staff, and mitigating some of the products. So how do we mitigate the risk, specifically developed to meet the SDG goals? So, but it's only a beginning. It's only we started only 2 years now. We were able to do all the fundamental foundations we have done, and I'm sure we will be able to overcome all these challenges and come out of make SDG as an SDG linking SDG or measuring link to SDG goal achievement for the social performance management of any business. So that's my hope, and thank you very much, Cecil, and CERISE team for your support, and Callum for your encouragement and handholding to our team also. And we were also partnered with Oikocredit in the past many years. So we also have really supported in our journey. Thank you very much. It is very happy to share the platform with you also, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paul Thomas, for the very insightful example of ESAF, long-term commitment of ESAF in outcome measurement and social performance management. It's nice to see how it is integrated really into your organization. And we hear your call for support for this integrated approach also. I think it's nice also to see that you are taking among the stakeholders, the staff also, and how the staff can value this, and it's part of the buy-in and support to this approach. I think we have a question for you from Amadou Ba from Positive Planet. How your monitoring system interconnects ESG goal with SDG, and how do you proceed and link both reporting? If you can share this rapidly, and then we will share the floor also with Oikocredit on their customer outcome program.
Yeah, we
the
have
link between ESG and SDG, you know, those three-letter acronyms challenges.
Yeah, so we have linked the ESG goals, aligned the ESG goals with some of the SDG goals, the appropriate SDG goals. So then if you measure only the SDG goals achievement, then we are able to report to the on ESG framework also. We will be, because ESG. All the ESG goals are built into the SDGs. So it is not that difficult. Okay,
so logical complementarity between ESG and SDG in terms of results. So yeah, we can dig a little bit further on this on the different examples that we will share today and on the next steps. Thank you very much for the ESAF example. Kevin, Marilou, can I give you the floor? And if you can present yourself also.
Yes, thanks. I hope I can be heard by everyone.
Yes, perfect.
Good. I'll very briefly introduce myself and Oikocredit. My name is Kevin. I'm the social performance specialist at Oikocredit. And Marilou and I will present briefly our client outcomes program. Oikocredit, for those who don't know us, is a development economics cooperative, 40 years already in this field. Basically, we invest in and also do capacity building in Latin America, Asia, and Africa. We have a portfolio of almost 1 billion euros and over 600 investee organizations, MFIs, but also renewable energy and agriculture. So we'll start because I know our time is tight, right? 15 more minutes, and it would be great to have questions and discussions. I really want to thank the two presenters ahead of me, because it was really, really nice to hear insights into how you're doing, what you're doing, and yeah, congratulations, because I find it quite amazing also to get to the wider group in the sector, in the general financial sector. All right. Without further ado, Client Outcomes Program for Oikocredit actually started 6 years ago, and Cecile will probably remember those discussions around the table about how do you get to outcomes, right? All we're doing is reporting outputs. So that's how it started, and that was actually 1 year before the SDGs were launched. It's got two pillars, the program. Basically, it was very much focused on building capacity for things that are relevant at the MFI level, right? Measure and monitor client data. And the other one was really to improve and understand what's happening at the beneficiary, at the client level. So two pillars there. The MFI pillar really focused on participatory workshops on data analysis. So that sounds familiar to you, I think, at the MFI level, which would result in action plans and dashboards that really the MFI would use. So it's really focused on relevance for the MFI. And then on the other side, the kind of the longer term economic analysis in collaboration with universities and to get the research papers that look at a longitudinal data set. So the goals were very brief: to improve products and services that match the needs of clients, and then to evidence the social mission of the MFI and of Oikocredit. After 5 years, we had worked with 20 MFIs and had basically, we had together analyzed over 2 million clients, their data, and lots of more data points. Next slide, please.
Yeah, you can. No.
All right. So I'd like to hand over to Mary Lou to give you like insight into what does this mean, a workshop with
Hi, I'm Marilu Juanito. I'm based in the Philippines, working with Oikocredit as a regional coordinator for capacity building and social performance in Southeast Asia. I'll share with you the real experience we had from the data analysis workshops held with 7 MFI partners in Cambodia, Philippines, and Indonesia. The data analysis workshops were aimed to build MFI's capacity to analyze and monitor client data. It is important that we have preparations which are being done 2 to 3 months before the workshop, because it's important to identify the MFI partners who have collected client data over a period of time. So to be able to compare the changes over time. And the MFI should send in advance a set of client data containing PPI and other demographic information that they are collecting. The common objectives and expectations from MFIs in having the workshops were to improve their data quality, improving data analysis skills of the MFI, to introduce the MFI to data analysis software, and most important is to enable them to make use of the data. The 5 days workshop is divided into sessions. The first day is the introduction session with the managers, the senior program managers of the MFI. This is important because it's a buy-in. It's a process of buying into the process and making use of data. And the participants, we discuss about importance of data, what's the value of data to the organization, and linking this to tracking their social mission. Then the second to fourth days are for overtime analysis of data using graphs and charts, introduction to the software for data analytics, building interactive data dashboards. And the last day is a workshop to do an action plan. The challenges we encountered from the workshop with our Southeast Asia partners are, there are MFIs using still the old version of PPI, so it's not updated. There are issues on data collection, data storage, and errors in data. And the size of client data reduced significantly each year due to various reasons, like client dropout, error in data entries, client IDs, duplication, and sampling method used by the MFI. The common ones are more logistics, which are like few participants have laptops, which Ideally, they should have one laptop per participant, and they don't have the latest version of Excel. And participants find it difficult to work at first on Excel and software at first. Cecile, next slide, please. So the participants work on their own data to do the analysis using pivot tables, graphs, maps, and they start with setting hypotheses or assumptions, because at first they have difficulty in using pivot tables or comparing data that they have or analyzing the data. So we kind of ask them questions to start their thinking or analysis. Like, for example, we ask, are women poorer than men clients? And so they do the pivot tables and compare the performance, the poverty likelihood for women and men clients. Or we ask, does average loan balances differ depending on rural or urban settings? Do rural microcredit borrowers fare better in reducing poverty than urban borrowers? So they try different indicators and assumptions using the pivot table, and then they develop graphs and maps from these hypotheses and assumptions. But at the end, the result is a dynamic dashboard to show socioeconomic information of clients, and they use what they have agreed on social indicators that is important or valuable for the MFI. And then they use maps and look at the recommendations, study the recommendations. Next slide, please, Cecile. So the next, we have the action plan. This is done in the last day of the 5 days workshop. During this workshop, we invite again the senior managers and the participants of the workshop, and where the participants produce to the managers the outputs and the dashboard that they made during the workshop. Then the trainers present insights from the workshop, the findings from interviews that we did with clients, with loan officers and branch managers. Normally, these are findings on data collection and data checks. And also, we present the recommendation from the trainers. And then based from the recommendations and the findings, insights from the workshop, they do an action plan. Then finally, this action plan is agreed or discussed within the organization. Then they shared with Oikocredit after 2 to 4 weeks, the final action plan. And then we monitor the progress of the action plan, and if needed, post-training support, technical ones, is provided by Oikocredit Social Performance Analyst team. Back to Kawin.
All right, thanks. What we saw in the 4th or 5th year were that from the 27 MFIs were actually really good at the data collection, the data analysis. We call them the best in class, and together with them we went a step further and developed an even more sophisticated dashboard in Power BI. Things they were very interested in, of course, is the display of the demographics of the loan portfolio, so occupation, loan amounts, income, gender, and a map also, which you can map to, let's say, national data sets. So that's what you see here. And on the next slide, you'll see the same data set, but then with additional points related to the poverty levels and 3 different poverty levels. So you get a snapshot in real time of the portfolio, but also over a longitudinal period of time. So that brings us actually, that was just to give you an impression, all these things of what actually happened on the ground. And then at the last year, we also had an evaluation looking back at the program to see, you know, what's been done, what's happened. And I think one of the key lessons that we had for ourselves was that we we overestimated the amount of time that would actually be needed, particularly I think at the level of really looking at we knew data was available, we knew that, and it was actually getting to the practical skills of key people at the MFI who would be involved with this, and also the analytical skills. So you could be really good at Excel, but you would still have to realize, all right, what am I looking at? And that's why we went into these, the setup of that 1 week was just like really important. It was very intense. It was like a one big Kaizen, if you're in Lean Six Sigma kind of thing, thinking about, all right, what is it you want to, what are the objectives, and how are we actually going to use what we're developing? So that was, and the reflection looking back was that the MFIs valued the training for sure. The challenge was, of course, that people you've trained have left, people move around, also at Oikocredit, so that was definitely a challenge. There was a lots more opportunity in terms also of operational research, but the important thing was actually that the data had to be very relevant for the MFI for it to be sustainable. What we realized was that MFIs really wanted even further follow-up. A number of MFIs really used what they developed, and I say developed themselves because that's really what happened, and are still using it in right now, or are actually even publishing the data that the dashboards on their websites. So I would say client outcomes work is very relevant. I didn't mention the connection to SDGs. It's not how we started this, but the SDGs are all very connected, I would say, to development economics objectives. So it is very, as we saw in the previous presentation, it's very, I wouldn't say easy, but it's very logical to connect the type of outcomes indicators that you're collecting to a particular SDG. At Oikocredit, we selected 7 SDGs, and different institutions will select different SDGs. All right, so that was in a nutshell to give you just a flavor of what happened. And right now we're looking at how to continue this, because obviously it is very valuable. We'd like to continue. Thanks, CERISE and Cécile and the rest from CERISE team for allowing us to present this here.
Yeah, thank you, Kavin, Marilou. I think it's a very concrete example also on what works, the time is necessary. You say underestimate or overestimated, but I think we usually underestimate the time necessary to do this, the challenges of data quality, data management. But I think it's nice to see also what can be the outputs of all this and type of dashboard using Power BI or Tableau. And I think it's, the challenges, also the very concrete challenges of using Excel or those new software that can be used to share the information on a regular basis. But I think it's, you are with all the 3 participants among the pioneers to push this a step further and to face the challenges. And that's also the objective of all working together with different stakeholders in the group, also to see what is valuable for any of us and for the practitioners in the field also. I can share also the example of SPTF, but maybe if there are some questions and discussion at this stage, maybe we can open the floor to discussion first. You can unmute yourself if you want to ask question or share also some examples or challenges, or how you have overcome some of the challenges. Feel free to share. Who wants to start first?
Cécile, I think what I just read your note, your chat, that I had said overestimate, but underestimate was actually the right word.
I think it's a good lapsus.
No, absolutely. So everything takes a lot more time than you expect, and there are always the unexpected hurdles. But I think what was the nice bit was that really to see the enthusiasm of the team that you work with in the workshop week. It really had like 10 people from the MFI, so from different levels, and they were just delighted to be able to learn on the spot, working with real data from their own systems. So that made it so practical, and then that they would actually have to present back then to the board or the management team or senior management in that same week. So it was very, very intense when you do it that way, but it really pays off in the sense of I would say engagement and empowerment.
Yeah. Any question or comment? I think from the different experience that we have seen and from what we know, we have discussed different steps in the management process, data management process, data collection and how much time it requires, incentives for the loan officer to collect good quality data, commitments, how data input also is done, the tools that has to be used, how is data storage is done, and linking also different sources of information can be a challenge. Of course, the challenges of data analysis, but also the fact that we can use some software and tools and trainings that can guide on this, and the use of results. I think it was nice to see different type of data visualization. I know that ESAF also have some very concrete dashboards that can be motivating for the staff and be shared with different stakeholders to take informed decision. So that's interesting steps. Any question? Okay, chat box. I cannot have at the same time the chat box and move the slides. Lucia, do you want to raise your point? Does the development of
Sure. Good morning, Cecile and everyone, and
Hi,
thank you so much for all this interesting discussion. I agree, the staff turnover is always, unfortunately, playing against many of the initiatives we all work for. And so I was wondering, can we treasure from Oikocredit and Entrepreneur du Monde experience lessons about to what extent does automating systems and developing dashboard help mitigating the staff turnover challenges, please?
Embedded structurally, and I think what we had started on, and this goes for every single organization, whether it's an MFI, whether it's an investor, whether it's Oikocredit, whatever. So I think just during the process and then having the action list, and for us it was very key to have like a sign off from the management team on the action list, was starting the whole process of really embedding a structural process of collecting and reporting and monitoring on this data. So that's the first step. And then also the use of the data. So so that is a step ahead of like automizing it into dashboards, because, and then the next step of automizing into dashboards would be good or is good, but if the data isn't used, then it's also time and resources wasted. So I think that part of having the management sign off and then it's logged into the minutes is really important. Yeah.
And there is a question, also a comment by Govin Raut on trying to use the PPI in Nepal, but being not updated, so it's difficult to use, and that's also linked to data quality. And maybe I can share. We had some examples from an MFI in Asia, field survey from the audit team that show that the PPI score were really very different from what was captured in the system, with a very huge difference between what the loan officer collected and what was the capture in the MIS, what was capture and what was used. So the encoding process also was complex. I can share the slides if you want more information. We will share in any case the slides. And there was some very in-depth analysis of why it was so different from what was supposed to be. And one of the reasons was that it was an old version of the PPI, so the loan officer do not trust the tool, and they didn't feel comfortable with the questions. They felt that it was too burdensome to visit the house of the clients when they had a productivity requirement, which was quite high, of 350 clients managed by loan officer. Monthly cash incentives, which was only based on financial performance targets. So, and some sentences shared by the loan officer that, yes, sometimes we have to lower the score to accept for clients, for example, or I often randomly do the assessment for subsequent loans because I like time. So yeah, and the lack of accuracy check and control by the audit team was also one of the points. So that was just to illustrate also the challenges at the very basic level of data collection, of commitment, trust, and interest of the loan officer to collect the right information. And this organization has updated the PPI, trained the staff to understand and share the results also with them, so that they value also the use of the data. And that was also the discussion on what is expected by the different stakeholders and what is interesting for all of them. So I just wanted to illustrate the challenges of our partners from Nepal, that it's not so easy even when you have a tool to have the good answer to collect the right information. So it's really a journey. Other question or comments? So, Edouard, do you want to share your point?
Yes, hello everybody. I was just commenting in the chat box that for some organizations, especially small organizations, it makes sense to have the risk analysis and the SPM analysis in the same team, because the skills needed to analyze data are similar. And if you find staff with these, double bottom line objectives, you can build a team able to do both. I mean, that's what happens in rating agencies in microfinance. That's what happens in, at least at the Grameen Clerical Foundation. I think it's for data analysis, at least, it can be a solution to staff turnover, just on SPM. Then, of course, there are other SPM projects in an organization, and that has to be done maybe by the specialized staff.
Yeah, we have some examples where we work with, in some organization, with the IT department, reporting department, data department, communication department, operation department, and they have to work together to see which type. So even already at the level of the financial service provider, there are different stakeholders to decide which type of data they want to use and how they want to use it. And making the links inside the organization is an important point. And risk analysis can be one of the entry points.
It's just one example, but isolating the SPM skills in one department then creates a risk of turnover. While if all departments share an SPM duty, it's different.
And that's the case of ESAF with a very integrated approach, for example.
I was just suggesting, Marilou, before we went into this presentation this morning, you mentioned, because you've been working with 7 MFIs, some of like the product development that happened, which of course is reflected by the fact that you have to work with different departments. Is there anything you want to add about that might be useful to know or interesting?
I think what we did in our workshop is to combine not only SPM people, but the participants come from the different departments of the organization, and they look at the data, the identified data that are valuable to the kind of work that their department is doing, and then they link it also. Like for example, the internal audit will look at performance of branch, and based on the data, demographic data and the branch, the internal auditor can already spot which branch needs internal audit, something like that. So it's about using the data based on the line of department, the task of the department. Like the operations would look at, would have developed in one of the MFI a Watson project, because they've seen the clients have would be needing this Watson project from the data that they are gathering. Or they would look at the client retention is very low, because we started in the first year with 500 clients, and then automatically in the second year, there are only 280,000 clients in the data. And so, and then the third day is a more reduced number. So they look at our possibility. Our assumption is that their client retention is really very low. At first, MFI said that no, the clients are just resting. And so they kind of deny it at first, but when we look at data once more, they really look into client retention, and they took an action in improving their on looking at solving this problem. So this is all about using the data to the kind of work that they are doing. Also looking at risk, because for example, the very low client retention is a risk to the portfolio, and it's more expensive to get new clients than retain clients.
And I think our approach was very tailored because we asked for the data that they were already working with, because that was the assumption that the first hurdle of getting the MFIs or organizations to start collecting new data would be a hurdle. So let's start with what is already there, and then figure out the gaps or how to interconnect that together with the organization. And you uncovered many things during that, things like what Cecile just showed as well. But it was a very fruitful exercise for all the stakeholders involved. Yeah.
And yeah, maybe this start to answer to the question by Hans Ram on the readiness and acceptance by the MFI of to introduce further tools. So yeah, focusing on existing data, and it's what also ESAF shared with us. And maybe I can just share in few words the work done by SPTF, which is also linked to what you have done at Oikocredit level or Opportunity International, and what ESAF is doing. Try and focusing first on existing data, transactional data, client profile. So they have tested it, and I know that people from SPTF are also on the call, even if it is early on the US side of the world. So please correct me if I'm wrong. So the work has been done with 4 financial service providers, 2 in Latin America, 2 in Africa, to collect existing data. So not asking them to collect more, but really making more sense of what they already have. So of course, there was lots of issue on data quality and error fixing. But just doing simple analysis by segment of clients, gender, age, branch, maturity of clients, and etc. Some of the organization were surprised by the results. So yeah, for example, the number of women was growing, but in terms of percentage of clients, it was declining when they thought that there were more women clients. there was a gap getting bigger on the average size of loans to women compared to men when they thought that it was not the case. Or for example, like young people were using more one type of saving products while it was not really targeted for them. So very basic information sometimes can be important for decision making and not necessarily systematically analyzed and used. So that was, yeah, I think interesting, and it's work in progress by SPTF, and there are plans to do some guidance. Now there was already some work done on outcome measurements with SPTF and e-MFP action group, but I think we can provide some very concrete guidance also based on what has been shared today and the experience of ESAF or of other on using and making sense of data, and what can the investors also advise their investees to do on a very simple and pragmatic way. So I think there is work to be done. Hans, would you have further comments or question, or the presentation by Marilou has answered to your questions? Do you have more?
Well, my question would be just about the absorptive capacity of, I don't know if these are really kind of top MFIs with very skilled, let's say, social performance champions and so on, because I just encountered that that the more instruments also you introduce, I mean, the more, okay, it takes away attention from their operations, and whether that really reinforces also the further instruments like the SPI audit and PPI and other tools. Thank you.
Do you want me to take that as well? But maybe Callum wants to take that.
Yeah, look, I think capacity can be found if the institution has an incentive to do so. You know, I go back to Paul's point earlier. I mean, ESAF are absolutely committed to doing this, but at the same time, you know, they've been doing this for years, and they haven't really seen a return in terms of improved investment, improved access to investment funds, or better investment terms from doing SPM or outcomes management. So I think that's you know, that's part of the challenge is, you know, we talk about requiring better outcomes management and SPM from partners, but you know, we're not typically incentivizing that. So I think you know, it's one of the challenges, at least.
And I think I can add a bit to that, because I understand the question. The question is related to, you know, you're creating more tools and stuff. So the point was really to help organizations probably with things that you would call marketing intelligence data, right? That will be in line with the mission of the organization. And I think an example that is particularly in products that really meet the needs of the customers, and the assumption being behind that if it meets the needs, that they will probably be more take up of that product. We in our client outcomes program focused on PPI because the assumption was that, or some of the that was a tool that was already absorbed or integrated in the MFI. We also had some, it wasn't necessarily the tool that they needed to have. So we also had an MFI that didn't have a PPI, and we just work together with them to say, right, what is your mission and what do you want to follow, and then developed an Excel-based dashboard. So you can actually do that really with Excel based tools, which and even then you still have to support just developing potentially the analytical thinking. Just, you know, what you want to, what's your hypothesis and how are you collecting the data that supports that, as you would with any other organization on Earth, and where there is not a, let's say, a regulatory requirement, but really an organizational thinking behind. We want this data because it's connected to our service and products for our clients.
And I think an important point also is that with the existing data, lots of information can be used, and even if FSP are not using the PPI, for example, we see plenty of them having in their management information system a proxy of the income of the, or monthly income or annual income from the households or from the clients, because they capture this with the analysis of capacity of repayment. They have generally the family structure, so they can have a quite reliable income per capita data to check what is the living standard of their clients at least, and see who is entering or having access to the product. So to answer to also to Govinda route, sometimes you don't necessarily to use a new tool, specifically if the PPI is too old, for example, but check what is in the MIS of the organization, and check whether it can make sense to do some simple analysis and segmentation with the available data. So I think it's something that we can value also, using more available data at the financial service provider level. And as Edouard said, to use it also for risk management or other type of very necessary analysis. Any other comment or question, Jürgen? Jürgen, do you believe investors are doing enough to value outcome data? I think the answer by Mr. Paul Thomas from ESAF was no.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course we have fantastic examples here of investors who do. So maybe you're not the right to ask you those questions. But the question is really to say, from the discussions you have with the MFIs, and I kind of believe I know the answer, but it would be interesting to think about it. Does the investor world give enough incentives in evaluating that work that's done at the MFI level? How much do they do for themselves to understand how much could investors do? And maybe for us also to think how could we do more to incentivize MFIs to do this work?
And at least requesting and using the social dashboard that are provided at the board level when it is equity investors could be a starting point.
Yeah, I think it really starts with the due diligence. I think investors need to ask at the point when they're going to invest, they need to ask the questions about what is the effect then on the end borrower. And those questions in the, let's say, the financial or the risk due diligence are often, that's what I understand from hearsay, so I haven't been, are not asked. So that would be a start, because it piques the interest then of the MFI or the investee organization that, oh, this is apparently important for the investor. Apparently that's not being asked, and I'm actually triggered also by the previous Mr. Paul Thomas's presentation on, hey, you know, this is actually not paying off on for the institution to be doing all this data. So really would like to have more of a follow-up on that. So that's a follow-up on your question as well, Jürgen, how to do this, yeah, on a broader level.
Yeah, and sharing concrete examples to answer to Jon's question. I think there are some examples of dashboard that are regularly used at the board level by investors. Some commitments at the board level, and I think I remember that at some point Oikocredit was reducing a little bit interest rate with exceptional social performance. Do I remember well? Is it still used?
So that's up to the direction of what we call our investments staff. So the regional director can actually suggest that based on the information that's coming up from the investee organization. Yeah.
But yeah, we should, come on, Jürgen. Sorry.
No, and maybe just as a question for us investors, I remember a few years ago in a discussion with an asset owner, which was AXA at that time, where I made a presentation on work we were doing, and the observation was that they were surprised about the level of information that we have. And I think sometimes we don't share that enough with the asset owners that come into this industry, because they're not even aware of, because they also need that kind of, in reality, that's what they also need, is to have the changes that it makes at the client level in order to, to invest or increase investments into the sector. So maybe there's a communication work also that can be done about what we already know, and get further incentives across the chain to do this further.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are some examples of carried interest also for fund managers linked to some social performance of their investees. So yeah, maybe we can also try and share more concrete example on the role of investors and how it can be managed for the next calls and next exchanges, because now we have to wrap up. I think Celia has taken also all the great discussion on the chat box.
Yep.
Thank you very much, all of you, Oikocredit, Opportunity International, and ESAF, for your very concrete and practical examples. We will share the slides. I think you can re-listen to the to the discussion if you want on the e-MFP platform. You can share also with some partners or other people who would like to know what we are doing. And I'm just sharing the slides on the next steps for the SDG Lab. We will have a French version of this call with maybe simplified or other example in French next week. We are currently doing a state of practice questionnaire, and thank you for those of you who are on the call who already answered to see where we are in terms of outcome measurement. And we will work together with SPTF and e-MFP to finalize some guidance notes and inputs from all of you, and in particular Opportunity International, Oikocredit, ESAF could be very interesting to guide a little bit more FSP on use of existing data and guidance for investor and networks to support their investees. So I think the challenges and the question that we raised today should be addressed or start to be addressed also on those type of guidance notes. And yeah, let's keep in touch all along the Open Microfinance Week sessions. There are some sessions this afternoon, another one at 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon on investors and SDG with the Gene, FMO, Symbiotics, sharing some examples also. And this afternoon, I think there is a session on challenges of field data collection. So yeah, still a lot of food for thought. Thank you very much, all of you, and our speakers today, and great discussion or chat. And let's see each other for real as soon as possible. Thank you, Mr. Paul
Thank
Thomas.
You, everyone.
Happy to have you around. Bye.
Thanks, Cecile.
Bye.
Bye, Callum. Have a good rest. And Marilou too.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye now.
Camille, I let you close the session, I guess. Hi, Jan. Nice to see you.
To see you guys. Exactly. Bon, bye.
Bye, everybody. À bientôt.
À bientôt.
À bientôt.
Ciao.